one of our second smallest one is very adept at bringing the conversation to the topic she wishes.
Or to
converse,
converse. Let's speak about me. How do we bring this topic to be all about me?
Welcome to Shoots&Roots, a practical video series that explores the joys and challenges of raising diverse kids through the different seasons of their lives.
How's it? So we're chatting about conversations with our children in this two-part series of Shoots and Roots and Roots and Shoots and trees and shrubs. The last one we chatted about conversation and our kids that are people, individuals that need conversation. Conversation should be about connecting, engaging, and it shouldn't be a monologue, and it shouldn't also be treated as almost a dismissive thing. You know, it should be engaged with our kids. But maybe we can just talk a little bit in this one about how we have trained our kids to have conversations.
Yeah.
I remember, born out of a place of annoyance, I was sitting with some of the older ones in our home, our kids. Every conversation was how clever I can be, how clever I can structure the puns, and how I can outwit in conversation the other party. And I had enough of it, and I sat them down and I said, look, there's conversation for entertainment value, where you show off and you tell a story in a funny way, and people laugh. And there's a conversation that you have to impress people, and that's when you show off how much you know about a topic. And then there's a conversation that you have for engaging and connecting. And I want more of the latter. I can't deal with this. Because what you think is clever in conversation, I have lived through already and have passed. I need engaging, connecting conversation. And Jude, the younger one, picked up on that. And a few weeks later, he said to me, Dad, would you mind teaching me how to converse, how to hold a conversation? And it was on the back of him hearing that, because he wanted to learn how to have a proper conversation. Then we started the journey of teaching our kids not just how to connect and be vulnerably emotionally, but how to have a conversation, and how to converse.
Yeah, and I think it's so beautiful after you chatted with Jude. What he's been doing with me is every now and then he's asked me if he could take me for a breakfast or for a coffee. Just some time with Mom. And it's so evident when we're having those coffees that he's trying all the techniques that you have taught him, you know, like he would sit down and say, so Mom, how's your work going? How's the studies going? What are you feeling stressed about at the moment? What are you feeling happy about at the moment? So really trying to connect at a deeper level in his conversation than just the surface stuff. And it's so amazing because I think you did that maybe once or twice with him and kind of explained those different kind of conversations that you need to have. And I think it's so important. I've also seen in their teenage years or just pre-teenage years how they go through this phase where everything is funny and they giggle about everything. We are painfully living through that at the moment.
It's going to be for a while.
There's still lots of that to come, but even in that it's not just that it's annoying for us because we're older, but we actually have to teach our children that there's a moment where, okay, it's funny, but then funny comes to an end at some point, you know? Yeah. Otherwise you are just being annoying.
You will often hear in our household, we'll say time and place. Time and place.
Yes, it's one of our...
There's a time to be funny, there's a place to be funny, now is not it.
Yeah.
But we've had to teach them how to read the surroundings.
Yes.
In our house, it's lovely because we have a little nook where we sit and connect one-on-one. Well, there are 4 chairs there, but most of the time you sit and you connect with one of them as an individual. But then also around the dinner table, we have group conversation. And there we've had to teach them the skill of allowing other people to talk, give some airtime away, and one of our second smallest one is very adept at bringing the conversation to the topic she wishes.
Or to
converse,
herself.
converse
Let's speak about me. How do we bring this topic to be all
also
about
happen
me?
to be a very strong personality and a very verbose person.
Yes.
But we've had to teach our kids the skill of seeing whether a person is an engaging, verbose extrovert or maybe a more reserved person that you need to go after in conversation.
Yeah.
Probe and find that topic that you can connect on, versus another one where you can just throw out something and they just ramble it off.
It's been beautiful, I think, to see at the dinner table, for instance, how it's quite bizarre, but in our family we've got one introvert. And when she tries to bring something, when the others start talking over her, she will just keep quiet and back off.
She withdraws.
And we've had to actually teach her that you just need to say in that moment, can I finish my sentence? That's okay to say. It's okay to finish your thought and how you started your thought. And because she's then surrounded by a bunch of extroverts, if they know what she's talking about, they quickly jump on the bandwagon and they hijack her story and they start telling it with their voice and with their little quirks. And we often have to say to them,
not your moment.
It's not your moment. It was your sister's moment and you're hijacking her moment. So even in small little things like that, you're teaching your kids to converse well and to be respectful of other people in the room. I don't know about you, but when it comes to the corporate world, when you have that one person on their soapbox, you're just like,
you die.
You can't stand them. You just smile and wave at them.
And it's our responsibility as parents to get our kids not to become those people.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, once again, we bring this up so often, but when we parent, we are not just parenting for now, we're parenting for the future. We are parenting for their jobs one day. We are parenting for them to be able to converse with other people. We are parenting for them to converse with their own children, with a spouse one day.
And with you, let me tell you the joy that I've had, where it's not stages of labor anymore, teaching them how to converse, but now enjoying the conversation.
Yeah.
The older three definitely carry a healthy, robust conversation with full vulnerability in it, with their own opinion laced everywhere, with their criticism of life and their enjoyment and their perplexities with life. Everywhere in the conversation.
And
it's
even
lovely.
their sense of humor just comes through so beautifully.
So you also get to enjoy it as a parent.
Yes.
You're not just doing it for other people. And do yourself a favor. You won't be alone in an old age home one day. You will have kids that can talk with you and they'll come. But we've had some interesting things. We try to, when we converse with one another, certain words we've reserved in our household only for God. So we are not a normal Christian family that says everything is awesome. Awesome means to fill with awe, and because of that we reserve that only to describe God. Divine, God-like. We don't use that for a trifle. Not that we do trifle, but we don't use it like it's not divine. Only God is divine. And we have a few of those words that we have used. And what has happened is our kids, because we enforce it so rigorously in conversation training at home, our children have gone to their friends' homes and sometimes have rebuked the parents or corrected the parents.
Only God is awesome.
Yeah, to the one mother, excuse me, ma'am, but only God is awesome. You also have to sometimes put context to the things that you train your children in, to say that is our value of that word and application of that word in our household, and do it. But what that's highlighted for me and raised for me is that to make them aware that inherently there are some values and things that you're taking into a conversation. Words that you don't like, words that you find funny. There are certain prejudices you take into a conversation, like oh my gosh, one of our younger ones can't deal with the word leprosy. And she growls when she hears the word. And the teacher was reading a story, a Bible story. Good Christian school reading a Bible story.
Online schooling.
Jesus healing the leprosy. And she just
Unmuted.
and said, "Sorry, ma'am, I'm very uncomfortable with that word." Like it's something in her. And you have to make her aware that you can't enforce that. You can't enforce your prejudices onto the other party in the conversation. Had to make her aware of that. So there will be invariably things that you as a household value or not value, but you have to in your kids instill a bit of decorum, a bit of respect for the other party. To not pounce on them with something that will be an absolute shock. Like, I mean, if you guys, if another person uses the word awesome, I can't shock them and say, hey, you can't do that and rebuke it. But that's also the art of conversation, is knowing what you take into the conversation with an individual.
Absolutely. And I think also how we tackled that one is, I think for most parents, we try to tell our kids that we don't have secrets, because you don't want your kids to have secrets really. But we have taught them that in our household there is going to be private conversation. And when we have private conversation, it means that it's for us, only us here. And I've often had to speak to my kids. I remember when I sat with one of the little ones and she asked me about AIDS and how AIDS works and that kind of thing. And I know AIDS is not it's not a private thing, but I know for some people it's uncomfortable to speak about. And I had to say to her, you know what, my love, this is not a wrong thing to speak about. It's just sometimes other children your age haven't asked these questions yet, and maybe we would want their parents to answer these questions for them, not necessarily you, who is 8 years old, to have this conversation with them. And for that reason, it's a private conversation. Mommy wants to give you all the information on this that I can give you, but you don't now have to go. And she's got that personality. I've got info, I need to go and share it with the world. That's how her little mind works with information. So I've had to teach her that even though you've got all this information, you have to use it wisely. And for now it's private, and maybe when you're older it won't be private, and you'll know when you can speak about it.
It's there to protect them, but it's also there to protect the other one.
Yes,
we had
absolutely.
Conversation with one of our older ones, and we told him that one of the children at school was adopted. And we had to learn the hard way how to safeguard our kids in conversation, because she then went to the child and sat the child down and said, I'm going to explain to you why you look different than your family, because your biological mommy passed away and they had to take you in because you didn't have a home. Thank God that a rich friendship was born out of this. When the parents found us, we now have a great relationship. But we then learned that sometimes to safeguard our children, but also to safeguard the other parties, we have to put boundaries in. Who can you converse with, at what level, and what is appropriate to share in what context?
I'm also just thinking, when we are having conversations with our children about sex, we have, for you and I, we have decided that we would like to have those conversations with our kids first. Obviously they hear things here and there, and hopefully they'll come to us to have the lengthy conversation about what that is. But I've learned that in also teaching our kids, when we speak about sex, it's not because it's an ugly or filthy thing or something that's wrong or anything like that, but it is a private conversation. It's a conversation that mommy and daddy would like to have with you, so that we can give you the right context, so that we can give you the right information. And this is a safe space where you can ask as many questions as you want to, and we are going to give you that information. But when we've had those conversations with our children, we've been very clear with them that that is not a conversation that you need to go and have with any other person. That is a private conversation, and we want to leave them with knowledge at the end of the day, not just to be thrown around and shared, but
knowledge,
for them,
but also with skill. And wisdom on how to have conversation. Another thing that we've taught our kids is that they are welcome to express their opinion with us. It's not safe and healthy to express your opinion just because you have it. Sometimes allow the audience to request your opinion. In today's day and age, even with social media, everybody's allowed to express their opinion. No, you're really not. You are invading somebody's space with your thoughts that they didn't ask for. And I think it's a healthy thing for families to know that when your opinion is asked for, share it. And when it's necessary and God prompts you, then do it. But don't just share your opinion because you have an opinion. I remember I was young once. I think I was, can you believe it? I was young once. At the age of 12 or 13, I was sitting listening to a conversation my mom was having with somebody. And I said, yeah, that's why this happened. And the lady looked at me and she said, hey, you're still a child. And she was right. I was speaking out of context and into a conversation that I really didn't know about, but I had an opinion on it. It's not healthy to do that. So they're allowed to express their opinions with us, and similar to us, how God says, you can have an opinion, but are you allowed, or are you willing to allow me to change that opinion? You're allowed to think what you want to, but you can't say what you want to, you know? Are you going to think in a certain way about people? Are you going to apply stereotypes? Will you be willing to change your mind on things if God shows you and reveals something about it? Very important for the kids also to have in conversation.
Yeah, and I think when you are in a close-knit family like ours, you get so used to this conversation and how we work and how we do things and what our values are. But we have to realize that everyone doesn't have our values, and people are sometimes going to have completely different values, and we can't
be judgmental about that.
And we can't dehumanize them because they've got a different opinion or a different way of living.
Their dignity and their value.
Yes, it's not okay. And there, I hope we've taught our children that we love with no conditions. Our love cannot have conditions.
I think the other thing that we teach our kids is how to just park a conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's a good skill to also have. And how to reason and finish a conversation. Some of the conversations that we have with them, we just have the experiential advantage in it. Yeah. We have lived longer. So we have certain things with our kids, we do sometimes say, because I say so.
Enough is enough.
But we do give reason to that. Because I say so, because I've lived longer than you, I've experienced life a bit, and I'm going to tap into the trust relationship that you and I have, knowing that I'm for you, I love you, and what I do for you and say for you is for your good. And sometimes end the conversation right there. It's a skill in life to be able to just say, I no longer want to engage in this conversation because I'm uncomfortable and the conversation has become
exhausted.
Yeah, and I don't want to belabor a point, or I don't feel like there's anything to contribute, or I feel unsafe in the conversation, you know? So we've also taught our kids how to finish a conversation and park it, or I will talk about this when I have researched it, when I've calmed down, when I've done this. And then of course we've also shown them the skill where you arrest yourself in a conversation. When you've gone on a tangent, then all of a sudden the Holy Spirit convicts you and you say, shucks, I've just realized I'm so wrong. I'm sorry, I'm just going to stop. And show them the restraint and the self-control that comes with the Holy Spirit. So those are some of the things we've taught our kids.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe send us some of the things you've taught your children in how to handle conversation. It's by no means exhaustive, but this is some of the handles we found that really helped our kids and us with our children conversing.
Yeah.
And not just monologuing at them.
Absolutely. Keep talking.
Yeah, keep talking. Love you. Bye.
Bye.